Chapter 72. I wake up and slide the sarcophagus open to an unfamiliar view. The ceiling is ornamented white plaster, a bit gaudy but a welcome sight. Nothing bad happened. I awake truly free for the very first time since I woke up in the Louisiana fortress. There is no abusive mistress to obey, no night squad to hide from, nothing. It took 30 years to achieve this state, but achieve it I did. My elation is short-lived. Outside of these thick walls, the sun's merciless embrace lights the world with its radiance. Its weight makes me sluggish even here, behind walls of unyielding stone. I feel it like a buzz, or a roar at the very edge of my consciousness. Come out, it says, come out and face your nature. You live on borrowed time. You will be ash. Eventually. I shake my head and force my fingers to open one by one. I need a distraction. I also need to secure a supply of blood before tomorrow, as I doubt that the speaker tolerates poaching on his territory. I dress quickly and walk into the reception room. All the windows are shuttered. A pair of enchanted lanterns shine with a light blue glow. A mortal woman in a maid's uniform consisting of a black dress under a white apron, with a cute little hat, sits at her desk and reviews documents. I send a tendril of essence to nudge her and she blinks owlishly. Then, her eyes find me by the door. She lets out a minute gasp, though she recovers quickly. She does her best not to show fear and surprise as she stands up, a good idea when dealing with us. With a careful hand, she places the sheets she was holding on the coffee table beside her before curtsying. Good evening, Melody, my name is Solveig. I will be assisting you during your stay, if it pleases you. Solveig is a tall woman with golden blonde hair and an impeccable tail. I would place her in her early 40s, though she would look younger to inexperienced eyes. Just like Imena, she is more handsome than pretty, with a ramrod straight back and a sensible air. I am Marianne. It is nice to meet you. What assistance can you provide? The maid lets out a small breath of relief. I suppose that some guests can be adversarial, and adversarial vampires can be a daunting prospect. Much. You can count on me to arrange anything from baths to a cab. We can get you clothes, weapons, send messages and arrange meetings with vampires and mortals alike. I am also free to share with you details on whoever is available, as well as arrivals and departures, should you wish to engage in social activities. You have access to loyal mortals should you wish to partake in their blood without hunting. Finally, the speaker has granted you an allowance of $200 per week for expenses. Convenient. $200 per week is more than I used to earn at the beginning of my reign in Marquette. Now though, it is merely a pittance. I still appreciate the gesture. There is more, Melody. You have received 3 letters, and an unknown nightmare is occupying your reserved stable. Excellent, I had been wondering if she would show up. She is a picky eater. Let me know if that becomes an issue. Solveig blinks slowly, apparently at a loss. I will relay your words to the stable master, Melody. That is all for now. Is there anything I can help you with? Yes, have a bath drawn please. As you wish. I sit down and pick the first letter as she heads for the bathroom. The first one comes from Merritt and arrived before I did. I open it with trepidation. Ariane, everything is fine here, though I have news. Your John eloped yesterday. What? With Irma's cousin, Gladys. Now, I am not exactly complaining or anything, but I would appreciate it if you could get him back. He's been morose since you left. I believe this is the right word, and, well, you'll see. Let me know how things are going on your end. With all my love, Merritt. He eloped? In 10 days? I need to see this. I make a note to summon John, his wife and members of the odd squad who so desire, as I expect I will need some hands to complete my missions. The day has not come that Rianne of the Nearari will be outgunned by the locals. I shall show them that when it comes to thugs, I have both quality and quantity. The next letter comes in an envelope sealed with wax and contains only a few words. Tauron of the Dvor cordially invites me, in a sublime cursive, to discuss our possible arrangement at my convenience. He insists that he will wait for me. I find the attention flattering, but I smell a hidden agenda. He probably needs something from me and I better find out sooner rather than later. The last message is in English by someone with an uncertain command of the written word, asking for an audience. The wrinkled piece of paper is signed with the name Urchin. This can wait. There is still much to be done. Solveig comes out shortly after and I give her my instructions. Tonight, I shall meet Tauran, then take a carriage to town for some overdue shopping. To my surprise, she does know of Urchin. I watch, amused, as her manners conflict with her resentment. He is one of your own, Melody, though, perhaps not quite as. What I mean is. Well. I snort, amused by her inner turmoil. I shall meet this Urchin and see for myself the cause for your discomfort. Her face twists in disapproval, though she only nods. After giving the rest of my instructions, including a letter to Merritt, I finally take that bath. It was long overdue. I enjoy the warmth seeping through my bones, but I do not luxuriate. Every time I close my eyes, I remember. Regro 2 and 7. 2 is my left-hand ring finger. 7 is my right-hand index. Regro 1 and 6. 1 is my left-hand little finger. 6 is my right-hand thumb. They are still here. I check. Yes, still here, and still fine. I stand up and towel my body. The pale skin is unmarred, as it has been since the day I was born again. No trace remains of the decades of abuse I subjected myself to. No scar, no blemish, not even a change of texture. It is as soft and spotless as ever. It feels wrong. I can still taste the ghost of pain. There should be something to show for it. The discrepancy grates on my nerves. With one last shake, I push these thoughts at the back of my mind. There's much to do. I dress quickly and realize with pleasure that my other dresses have been cleaned. The one I choose is a light gray ensemble with little embellishment. Only the form-fitting cut and the quality of the cloth mark it as a high-quality product. Those who see it as a sign of meanness will only betray their own lack of insight. Also, my more elaborate dresses are full of holes, so, as a last touch, I add Nami's shawl and, again, feel better as my neck is covered. Solveig brushes my hair with a softer touch than I would expect, then I follow her outside. The knights have left, and so has the Lancaster delegation. Melody. Your friends Hermina, Naminata and Salim are set to stay until the end of the week, at least, she comments as we go. Tauran's suite is somewhere on this floor, yet despite the short distance, we still come across a courtier. The man is tall with the build of a soldier, a squarish jaw and angry brown eyes. His aura is undisciplined and tastes of the Roland. The first chapter of the book Jimena offered me deals with greetings. When on neutral ground like we are now, it is customary for the courtier to offer a minute bow to the master who would then return a small nod. The man's aura lashes out and he displays signs of defiance. I stop as Solveig stumbles beside me, and look the man in the eye. I will not tolerate any sign of disrespect, especially not from a youngling. My own essence uncoils like a lazy snake. Tendrils latch around the man's figure, smothering his power. In them, I pour my cold anger, my suffering, and the promise of retribution. The courtier perceives what I am. He bows respectfully, and I keep going. Things are as they should be. He and I understand each other. Solveig swallows nervously and lets out a shaky breath as we leave the man behind us. I cannot let myself be challenged, especially not now. We make the rest of the way in silence. Tauran's suite is directly opposite mine, I discover, and as soon as he answers Solveig's knocks, I dismiss her. Please make the arrangements I requested. Of course, Melody, you have but to ring a bell to summon me or another maid when you are done. She turns around and leaves as the door opens. The woman who lets me in isn't Tauran but his servant. She inspects me with hooded eyes darkened by coal, curious yet respectful. Her head is completely bald and covered in an intricate lattice of henna tattoos set in subtle patterns. They exude no aura, and I understand that they are purely decorative. She tilts her head before pointing a bejeweled finger to my host. I turn and take in the surroundings. This suite is a mirror to mine, though while mine is all azure and alabaster, his is crimson and gold. The gaudiness is less pronounced, thankfully, and the darkness gives it a feeling of royal intimacy. Tauran himself stands by the fire where two high-backed chairs have been placed. Our eyes meet. The Dverlord bows first, a greeting I return, and invites me to sit. We take each other's measure in silence. His eyes are the color of steel, and his gray hair is bound back in a serious ponytail. A modest smile parts his ruddy face, taking the edge off. He is quite the handsome man if one sees past the wolfish countenance. Once he sees that I am done gauging him, he nods and speaks first. His voice is rhythmic and strangely melodious. "Thank you for humoring me, Ariane of the Nirari. Did Constantine convey my request?" He mentioned a protection detail. Inelegant, yet accurate. It is tradition that I asked for an escort while conducting my business abroad. We Dver are cut off from most of our powers while outside of the lands we control. I am far from defenseless, of course, but I have not reached this age by taking unnecessary risks. I would be honored if you would consider accompanying me during my stay. I need to confirm something. Nami mentioned such arrangements before. Sometimes, visiting dignitaries are offered a vampire of inferior rank as a guide, guard and intermediary. Physical intimacy is often part of the package, and it is not something that I am willing to offer. Before we go any further, I would like to ascertain what your expectations are. I would be willing to guarantee your safety. I understand, Tauran replies, this is not what I am after. I am curious. Then what are you after? If I must spend time with someone, why not with a capable and beautiful woman? Beating the Lancaster at their own game is no small feat, and doing so while ruling a city piqued my curiosity. Between this and your reputation, I am confident you are the best person for this task. My reputation? I ask with a frown. Tauran just smiles. His next offer takes me off guard. Could I interest you in continuing this discussion outside? Outside? What do you mean? Wilhelm keeps a flower garden near the cliff. It is rather beautiful. Would you care for a stroll? Come to think of it, I have been cooped up for too long. Some fresh air would do me good. Very well. Lead the way. Of course. Tauran stands up, opens the window, steps on the balcony and casually drops down. Ah. I look at his servant, currently busy reading what looks like a poetry book. She did not even raise her head. Well. Jimena's book certainly did not cover that part. I follow the lord outside and drop down as well, careful not to let my dress flare. I wouldn't want to give everyone an eyeful on my first night of freedom. Is it a common habit to ignore the exits? I asked the waiting lord. What? No, I merely wanted to avoid unwanted social interactions, he replies without concern. Forgive me for asking, is that a common occurrence? I would rather find out before someone drops from the ceiling. Not at all. Foibles in courtiers become eccentricities in masters. What is the point of living so long if I cannot drop from balconies when I please? Shall we? He offers me his arm, which I take, and we pass by the fountain. With the inverted U of the manor at our back, we turn left. I remember that the road up the mount is to our right, so I have never been where we are going now. Tauran's pace is slow and deliberate. The road beneath us changes to a path of white gravel surrounded by grass, until we reach a wall of hedges of tall boxwood, split in the middle by a large entrance above which vegetation closes, forming a natural archway. We duck underneath and walk between two rows of solid oaks, interspersed with yet more hedges. Illumination is provided by runes shining green. We follow the tortuous path with no vision of the outside, until lights are revealed at the corner of a bend. A massive flower garden opens before us. Small paths weave between artfully arranged beds mixing several species by color and theme. Behind it, a few stone benches against a wall mark the edge of the cliff, and beyond that is the bay, with Boston's shimmering lights far in the distance. The view is breathtaking, especially coming out of the tunnel, and I make a note to return later to spend a few lonely hours drawing and dreaming. With the sketches of the Mississippi, the burning house of the Lancaster, and the faces of the mages, my painting list is getting a serious backlog. Tauran quietly guides me around as I take in the exotic perfumes. Wilhelm has gathered 4 separate beds each with their own personality. The first is red and wild, with earth the color of fresh blood and tall flowers on thin stalks standing proudly and shamelessly. The second is green, blue and pink, with modest bushes arranged as if nature had received a divine inspiration. Only the smallest details reveal the hand behind the arrangement, the will behind the graceful chaos. In the center, a pond lies around a circle of lilies, surrounded by a handful of mangrove trees. The last bed is nestled against the wall and it speaks to me the most. The earth is black, and on it, thorn bushes and twisted trees with dark bark and branches like the fingers of a hag struggle for space. The flora is ominous, and yet there's beauty under the apparent savagery. Precious small flowers shine in the moonlight like diamonds on a midnight dress, fearless and uncaring. Elegance and doom living in harmony. I like it a lot. I stop Tauron when we leave the pond at our back. The last garden, wall, water and sky form four bands of color with the watcher at the top. It has been so long since I gazed into its depths. I do so now. The strange entity draws me in. I relax in the familiar embrace as it croons and drinks my madness. It takes the suffering and the hatred and inspects them carefully, then it returns them in full. I lower my eyes. My fingers are still all here, all straight and feeling good. Tauron has taken my hand in his own. With one, he massages my palm and with the other, pulls delicately on each finger one by one. When he realizes that I have returned, he smiles sadly. The expression of sympathy is peculiar on his lean face. You are not the only one to find herself at the losing end of a political struggle. I developed this method long ago. I had hoped I would never have to use it again. Then, as if sensing that he overstepped himself, he lets me go. What a bodyguard I am, I say bitterly. You have not agreed yet, the Lord reminds me, amused. Do not be so harsh on yourself. You can take all the time you need to recover. I do not intend to leave the city for a while, and we are as safe as can be. In fact, I would enjoy a little bit of tourism. Can't I tempt you into accompanying me? What did you have in mind? Music, tomorrow at 10. L'Elysir d'Amore, by Donizetti. I am told it is the Fieri in Milan right now. An opera? Yes. I have never been to the opera. Well, of course, I would be delighted. I have a social life. And it is fancy. It is decided then. I need to find something to wear, I half mutter to myself. Oh, and can you please tell me what you meant when you mentioned my reputation? Tauron does not object to the abrupt change of topic. If anything, he sounds helpful. Certainly. In the following nights, you will meet quite a few new faces, I'd wager, and though you will never have heard of them, they will have heard of you. Most Mirari spawn are abominations. They are renowned for their physical prowess and the difficulty to put them down in a battle of attrition. And here you come, with allies and plans and tricks. You managed to stay hidden for a decade, then too, became the blood sister of Jimena of the Cadiz, have Lord Suarez defend you against knights and Lord Saron vouch for you at a conclave. You befriended the singing spear of the Ekon, a Dverger warrior king, and ruled a city. You overturned a Kel order on your person, the first such occurrence in North America, and finally, they say that you defeated Lambert of the Lancaster in single combat. Is that true? Yes. I ate him too. Good. Tauron declares with a smile, and then as an afterthought, he was a massive prick. Sir. Ah, don't sir me. He existed only to despoil, and the only positive contribution he made for this planet was when his ashes fertilized the ground. Ahem. But I digress. Suffice to say that others may be apprehensive of you, as they are of any individuals who can show both guile and brawn, as well as the will to use them. But enough of this. You ruled the town of Marquette. Would you mind telling me more? I am a member of Eneru, and I am curious to know how a young vampire could take over a town of modern people. You see, I once debated another Dvermaster on this very subject. For the next half an hour, Tauron and I have a proper discussion. We compare notes on how we rule our respective territories, the main difference being that his people know of what he is and respect it anyway. I find the notion outlandish, until he reminds me that his lands occupy one of the most remote and parochial reaches of the Austrian Empire. The locals have been his for generations, and mistrust strangers with a ferocity that no Gabrielites or mages could hope to overcome. My style is closer to the mask doctrine of hiding in plain sight. Rather than being offended that I would use his competitors' methods, Tauran praises me for creating a sustainable system from scratch. We exchange anecdotes until the heartbeat emerges from the tunnel entrance. A maid I do not recognize timidly informs me that a carriage has been arranged. I steal a glance to the side. Tauran's appearance is cold when he looks at someone else. His countenance turns predatory and pitiless, though I suspect he is only uncaring. It would be interesting to see him hunt. Perhaps I can arrange something. In the meanwhile, I am on a schedule. Tauran walks me back to the garden entrance, then stays behind, with a promise that we will meet tomorrow an hour before the start of the opera. I make my way to my bedroom with a busy mind, nodding on the way at the courtier with the red dress I had seen yesterday. Nami and Jimena are inside, playing a game of chess while Salim is filling some papers. I do not mind that they let themselves in, but I make a mistake by not greeting them immediately. My sister immediately realizes I am a bit flustered. What is the matter, Ari? What is the matter indeed? The matter is that I just realized what happened in the garden. Tauran and I held hands, I tell her. Just as the words cross my lips, I realize my mistake. Jimena and Nami share a knowing look, like two wolves spotting a limping fat deer. You held hands? Pervert. And on the first night, you shameless hussy. Harlot. What is going on in here? Salim asks with a worried expression. Tauran and Ariane held hands, Jimena answers with mock shock. The sly lawyer winces in pretend disgust. Please spare me these tales of wanton debauchery. Holding hands. Scandalous. What is next, a stroll in the garden without a chaperone? He asks in a horrified voice. Ariane, you must not succumb to your base desires, or next thing you know he and you may link arms, Nemanata remarks. I heard that's how you catch the pregnant, Jimena adds helpfully. Are you all quite done? I ask, exasperated. You forget that due to my status as a fugitive, I had little opportunity for hand-holding. We all know that your dry spell is the size of the Sahara, Ariane. We are just delighted that you would consider his courtship. Hold on, it is a bit early to talk about courtship, is it not? We have only just met. Perhaps he is just being friendly? If I want to know with certainty, I usually walk into their bedroom naked, Nemanata suggests innocently. Thank you for your input, Nami. I shall consider the next time I want to strut in a vampire den in the state of nature. You should try it. The face on these snobbish twits when you show them a proper ass is always priceless. Yes, well, perhaps later. Now is the time for shopping. I'm coming as well. Jimena decides with enthusiasm. Nemanata decides to stay behind to sample Lord Jarek while Salim waves us off with the last "you couldn't pay me enough to go shopping with a pair of bored girls." We leave hand in hand, and for the first time since leaving that dreadful dungeon, I feel no need to check my fingers. Tauran's massage was surprisingly effective. I should ask him to do it again. Because of the therapeutic value, of course. Yep. The trip back to Boston proper takes half an hour. Jimena informs me that the maids and other mortals I have seen moving around are not cattle but employees from families that have served us for generations. Their loyalty is not taken for granted either. All those who come here are screened and submitted to redundant security checks. Constantine also has a contract with a die-hard mercenary company in the favor of the local governor, not to mention a dense network of spies, agents and informers handled by his secretary, Sophia of the Rosenthal. It would take an army to make the manor fall when a mouse could not reach it. I am, of course, not convinced. No matter how good defenses are, there is always a way to get through. Jonathan would find a method, I am sure. I am without alternative at the moment though, and will trust both my host and Loth reinforced sarcophagus. The tailor we are to visit works from the outskirts of Boston, hidden between a lodging and a few barns meant to host animals before they are sold in the city's many markets. Lines of high trees mask the small workshop and its customers from view. We are welcomed at the door by an old man with curly white hair and beard, and smart chestnut eyes behind a pair of round glasses. He bids us in, clearly expecting our arrival. Come in, come in. You must be Lady Nerari, I was told you would arrive. My name is Gunther Good, tailor for over 2 decades. And you are? Jimenity Cadiz? A pleasure. Please, follow me. The workshop is a single room, with models and fabric at the back. It lacks the usual counter one could expect from a business open to the public. A small table holding measuring bands sits near the entrance, and this is where Good leads us. He directs me with expertise, measuring everything and muttering about lavender and blush and what-not. How many dresses did you need? 4 would be best, with one at the end of the week and one for tomorrow, if possible. Difficult, but doable. May I ask what the occasion is? I am going to the opera. Ah, he comments, delighted. The old man loses his professional countenance, replaced by genuine wonder. L'Elysée de Moray. It has everything to warm my old heart. Love transcending social barriers, music to melt a statue's heart, passion, a quack doctor. Yes, I will have your dress ready. The old tailor continues his measurements, humming happily under his breath. I find it endearing. He is competent and creative, just what we admire in mortals. I am not surprised that my host would have him on retainer. Say, are you two related to Mr. Constantine? He is a distant cousin, I answer vaguely. Why? All those of you who live there, you have this something. His eyes lose their focus. A callous finger traces the edge of my dress to the skin of my wrist. Most mysterious. His mouth opens slightly and his nostrils flare. I hesitate to intervene, but thankfully, there is no need. Good blinks and blushes, red as a poppy. He promptly removes the guilty appendage and finds the courage to meet my eyes. My instincts are silent. This one is no threat, and his touch was a mark of adoration. I shall tolerate it. This once. When he realizes that I am not offended, the old man sighs in relief, though his embarrassment remains. Where was I? Ah yes. It doesn't take long for the measurements to be over and the tailor to usher us out so that he can focus on his craft. Jimenez leans into me and whispers as we exit, you should tone down your aura, my dear. I knew you had absorbed Lancaster essence, I never imagined it would show so much. Before I can reply, I feel a tug on my essence. The feeling defies description, like a tether attached to a part of me that does not physically exist. I recognize it now thanks to my practice with Aisha's cards. Fate is calling. I focus on my senses to see if I can perceive anything, and soon, I do. Shhhh. Do you hear that? Jimena tilts her head, then her eyes widen slightly. Thuds, impacts, grunts of pain. A serious brawl is taking place on the other side of the inn. The lack of drunken yells is proof enough that the participants are taking this seriously. I smile and point up. My sister grins and jumps on the inn's thatched roof in one graceful motion while I fasten the hooded cape I took to avoid attention. I move to the side of the wall, then behind, and see a sight I did not expect. The tavern's back court is a rectangular space occupied by crates, barrels and an outhouse. 4 rough men in worker clothes are trying to corner a 5th one and not doing a great job of it. 2 others are already out cold on the ground. The brutes are nothing special, the average dregs. The last man, however, is quite a sight. His attire is suitable for court and certainly not for this sorry joint, marking him as an outsider. He wears a black ensemble with a white shirt and stock tie, and even a top hat which currently lies discarded on the ground. In his gloved hands, he holds a scepter with a silver pommel, with which he strikes knees, jaws, noses and, as I watch, testes. As a 3rd man falls to the ground holding his abused crotch, a lucky kick finally makes the lone fighter stumble, an opening his opponents use to disarm him. The heroic combatant still escapes their grip and raises his fist in a pugilist guard. Now you shouldn't have done that, the biggest gun threatens in a low voice. He spits blood and removes a very large knife from his vest. Now that won't do. I can't use a man robbed of his innards after all. I step out of the shadows. I believe that is quite enough. The three men jump and turn to face me. The lone fighter uses this opportunity to make some distance, and I realize that he favors his left side. He did not come out of the ordeal unscathed. Who are you? Are you his girl? I can almost hear the rusty cog turning in the lead bruiser's cavernous head. His primitive brain associates me with weakness, and then weakness with hostage. Why don't you come over here, girl, and we won't hurt you much, he declares with a nasty grin while waving his pig sticker in what I assume is an attempt at intimidation. I could, of course, kill them in an instant. I could also charm them into stabbing each other. But that wouldn't be fun. Minata had it right, gloating is the guilty pleasure of our kind, and I am confident I can get the best out of it. My dear sir, I fear that you brought a knife, I say as I pick Aintz's gift from my left pocket. To a gunfight. Click. The leader scoffs. PFFFT, what are you going to do? Shoot me? I don't think I fully understand mortals anymore. Why would he tempt me so? I pull the trigger. The lout falls to the ground, clutching his knee. You bitch. You shot me. Very perceptive of you, sir. Baldy shivers. Get the whore. The two men hesitantly take a step forward, no longer so certain about the outcome of the battle. I calmly holster the first pistol and take out the second one, with the predictable effect. Now that is proper intimidation. Dalton, wherever you are, look down and laugh, for you did not show me this trick in vain. On the field, the two remaining foes smartly step back. Take your boss and saw it off, I offer generously. They grab their whimpering leader and the sad trio limps out, leaving three of their numbers on the field, as well as quite a few teeth. Once we are alone, my rescue greets me with a smile. He has black hair and an aristocratic cut and dark piercing eyes. His face is elegant and refined, even with the beginning of a bruise. As I put back my weapon, he walks forward and grabs his cane and top hat, before offering me a dazzling smile and a flawless bow. Cornered and beaten I was, by treachery and despair, till the villains were given pause. By such a maiden fair. Never has there been a rose, with such a thorny flare. Now this beauty did give them cause to fear a new nightmare. Melody, I thank you for your timely assistance. Nathan Riley Bingle, at your service. Ha, his name is Bingle. Just like. By the Watcher. Oh hell no, not this again. No. No need to thank me, sir, I am merely doing what honor demands. And now, please excuse me. I run away to the corner, then move, just as Bingle Jr. decries Melody, wait. I rush headfirst into the carriage and order it forward. Jimena lands atop of it and slides by my side an instant later. What was that? She asks, at a loss. Is he dangerous? Much worse. Yes, he is interesting. Chapter 73 Wilhelm's office shows a lot about the man himself. The walls are covered with rough wood, giving it the mood of a log cabin. The furniture was handmade by a patient craftsman. There are few decorations, yet the carvings show a level of intricacy and dedication that only hours of meticulous work can create. The few paintings are of landscapes by day. Wilhelm favors forests and mountains. In the corner, a grizzly head greets visitors with a silent roar. The hunting trophy would be tacky, were it not for the insane size of the beast. It would have been at least twice my size standing up on its hind legs. From behind his redwood desk, Wilhelm addresses me with a slightly bored voice. The introduction party is a show of strength, Melody. Branches of mighty clans display their wealth and power, while exiles use it to create new alliances. The party can be anything, from a masquerade to a hunt. The Econ's morbid festival is still the talk of the salons a century after. I gathered this much. Can I use the ballroom? Naturally. All our facilities are at your disposal. Then I would like the ball to be in a week. Invite everyone. Everyone? Well, not the Lancasters, of course. An open invitation for the locals. Very well. What else do you need? What sort of event will it be? A vernissage. If Wilhelm is surprised, he does not show it. A vernissage. Yes, we can make it work. The ballroom will do nicely, If you have enough creations to exhibit, of course. I do. 18 years spent hiding out in the boonies with only a flesh-eating capricious pony as company can be a tremendous source of motivation. It was that or collecting pretty rocks. And going slowly insane. You will reach the most people if the celebration occurs 4 days from now. It will also be enough time for Lord Suarez and Lord Cerrone to come here. I was told that they had an interest in your success. And that will give me time to get everything out of storage. Very well. I will have Solveig act as an intermediary for the details. Was there anything else? No. Goodbye Wilhelm. Goodbye Ariane of the Nirari. My door is always open. Wilhelm writes a few notes while I leave. I consider his parting words on my way back to my room, maid in tow. The butler is more of a steward, I decide, and these words he said indicate that I have his ear. It might be that he was just being polite, or perhaps he is enthusiastic about a helping hand joining his coven. I remember the difference Nami made in Marquette simply by taking the odd mission. Vampire masters are useful enough that even the crustiest grumbler will try to stay civil. Time will tell if Wilhelm proves useful. Solveig. Yes, Milady. I would speak with this urchin fellow. Now. He is in the guest room on the first floor, Milady. Should I have him fetched? Yes. My maid leaves on her errand while I return to my den and settle to wait. Jimena has left for the night, so I prepare a list of the paintings I want to exhibit and consider including my best takes on the Watcher. Those are special because they get the most extreme reactions from their viewers. As I am done, a polite knock on the door announces the arrival of my guest. He walks in and I immediately understand why Solveig would disapprove of him. The man is a courtier with a curious, flighty aura like nothing I have felt before. The cause for my faithful aide's disapproval, however, is appearance. Urchin wears a blouse, beret and threadbare pants, something I would expect from dock workers. His face and poise firmly place him in the alley thug category, and not just any alley thug either, the vile kind. He exudes sleaze and low cunning. His rat-like face and crooked nose, his messy hair and hunched back. His hair-covered, gnarly hands. His small stature. He is like the living embodiment of the scam, the Duke of Deceit, the devilish deviant. A gullible Samaritan would not trust him with a broken shoelace. And he's ugly as sin. I am honestly impressed. You must be Urchin. Come, have a seat. Sit? Ah, sit. Thank you. Even his kid is atrocious. I remember that not everyone inherits the knowledge from their sire's essence, yet surely, after all this time, he should have learned. No? You wish to speak to me? Ah. My arcade, not so good. English? I frown with disapproval. Negotiations between vampires should be an arcade. This is the proper way of things. Using English desecrates our interaction, makes it weaker. I hesitate, though in the end, I allow it. This man's command of the tongue is pathetic. We will get nowhere by sticking to tradition. You wish to speak to me? Yes, Lady Nirari. I'll be brief. Yeah. My name's Urchin. A little bird told me you have a territory. Yeah. I want to move in. My talons click on the varnished wood of the throne-like seat I chose. Sensing the mood, Urchin lowers his misshapen head with respect. As your follower, of course, beg your pardon, miss. At least he didn't call me governor. I suppose I shouldn't be too judgmental. And why should I allow you on my territory, Urchin? I know my way around the city, I do. I stay silent. Also, I can do this. Watch. Urchin furrows his caterpillar-like eyebrows and something peculiar happens. His aura flares, then a tendril whips out and strikes me with blinding speed. I raise a hand in reflex over my heart while jumping in the air, but the tendril just moves past it and latches on the shell I am wearing. Then, it moves back, leaving my neck unprotected. He dares. In an instant, I am on him. I place one hand over his heart with the other around his neck. His large eyes widen comically, but instead of resisting, he bares his throat. The gesture stops me. Smart. Give it back. I take my silky property from his helpless, and quite frankly grubby hands, and fold it again around my neck. The smooth and cold fabric comes to rest against my skin and I immediately feel better. I need this. I need to feel protected and in control, at least until I make a full recovery. I take a small moment to luxuriate in the feeling before opening my eyes. Urchin is desperately trying to burrow into his seat and appear inconspicuous at the same time, failing miserably at both. I find out that I am no longer angry, and I reflect on what just occurred. His ability is strange. It was not a spell. I am sure of it. It looked like an instinctive ability, something that a courtier should not possess. Unless you are a Vanheim. Beg your pardon. You are Vanheim. A wild card. You are of the 14th bloodline, are you not? I have no idea, miss. I just woke up one day and I was like that. You do not know your sire? No. His face shows pain, betrayal, then burning resentment. I got thrown away like an old shoe. Don't even remember my name, or who I was before that. Scorn. I can work with that. I can also work with something else. You may prove useful after all. I will allow you to serve and live on my territory, if you pay the price. And what would that be? He asks with a hint of apprehension. Only the absolute proof of your submission, I answer with a feigned smirk. I stand still as Solveig makes the finishing touches to my hairdo. Delivered. The dress is of a very light pink color I would normally avoid, and of an interesting take. The design is asymmetrical, with a brighter piece of fabric draping over my right flank, elegant yet daring. Both my shoulder, back and cleavage are completely covered, therefore I do not show more skin than is appropriate. Instead, the lack of modesty comes from the design itself. The cut is quite close to the body, including a skirt with barely any flare, so that my shapes are easy to spot. Some would find this distracting. The rich fabric and flawless work mark the garment as the work of a master, and so the result is ambiguous. Conservative busybodies could stare with disapproval for hours without ever being able to pinpoint exactly where I cross the line. I admit that the old codger is worth every penny we pay them, though I cannot help but think he may not be as innocent as he looked. To complete my image, I asked Solveig to pull my hair up, freeing my neck. I intend to wear the shawl even if the colors may clash a bit. The maid inspects her work one last time, then nods to herself. I cannot see for sure what I look like. I hope that Tauran will like it. Also, I apparently care what Tauran thinks of my appearance. I should probably not let this get to my head. He is probably just being nice. It is not because he is polite, respectful, smart, knowledgeable, interesting, handsome and thoughtful that I should be interested. Nope. I review the list of selected paintings and circle 2 of them to send to the special exhibit. Out of all the efforts I have made to evoke the watcher with an image, these are the most convincing. It is just unfortunate that humans would feel distressed by it, and so they will be hidden from the mortal attendants in a separate pavilion. Such a bother. Besides those, I have one large battle scene as a centerpiece, quite a few landscapes, nightlife scenes, and portraits of vampires and mortals alike. In total, I pick my 30 best works in so many years, with the exception of the gift I sent Loth. I finish this and go over the guest list, realizing that I have no idea who those people are. As promised, no members of the Lancaster clans are invited. Serves them right. I finish setting up John's future living quarters when a knock on the door makes me put my pen down. Solveig walks up and lets Tauran in. He takes in my appearance and smiles brightly. I am inexplicably proud as I stand and curtsy, a gesture he politely returns with a short bow. You look ravishing, Ariane. Yeah, of course I do. All right, Ari, calm down. Thank you for your kind words. You don't look so bad yourself. Tauran is a bit on the strict side with a gray coat over white shirt and trousers. Wearing white is a statement for us, as the smallest droplet of blood will leave a stain. It speaks of great control and trust in one's abilities. For us, white never speaks of innocence, for none of us has clean hands. Nor would we pretend to. Tauran chuckles at my words and offers me his arm, which I take, relishing the feeling of solidity he gives off. We make our way down and out to a waiting carriage. As a true gentleman, he holds the door for me and pretends to help me up, then follows. I get a whiff of his scent as he passes by. It is the same cold spice as the rest of us, with a touch of something earthy, like midnight on a mountain. "How are the preparations for your ball of the debutantes?" he asks. "Pa, don't mention it." I start by complaining about staff being disturbed by my innocent painting of the godlike entity that breached the barriers between the worlds and unleashed a plague upon mankind for its own obscure amusement, then talk shortly about Loth, who got me started on painting, then of Bingle and yesterday's meeting. When I ask Tauron if he ever witnessed something similar, his answer surprises me. In fact, I have. We have several theories about their existence, the most common one being that they have the blood of powerful entities who use them as sources of entertainment, or who simply gave them their traits. We call them godlings. I personally came across a godling of love, a century ago. It must have been horrible. Not exactly. As you have surmised, powerful emotions are something we crave, and the godlings cause them by their very existence. The whole love triangle, misunderstandings and brooding part one could have done without, however. You must be correct about them being a source of feelings. I have rarely been as annoyed as when Bingle was around. Has anyone tried to conduct experiments on them? Likely, though not recently. As I mentioned, they are discussed among those with an interest in the unfathomable. Theories abound, yet only one thing is certain. No one captured or killed one on purpose, then lived to tell the tale. My theory is that they can die, but only from characters inside of their own stories. There goes my last-ditch solution to avoid the Bingle effect if we ever meet again. But enough about research. Tauron continues. I wanted you to have this. I pick up his gift, which happens to be a small booklet. The opera is in Italian. Do you speak it? Not a word. This is a summary of the story. There are also a few words on the actors themselves and Donizetti, the composer, if you are interested. Some people prefer to learn very little of the show before seeing it for the first time, so that they get a fresh impression. I nod and leaf through the booklet. The story is relatively simple, and takes a single page. I also learned that all the soloists are from a famous Spanish troupe, while the choir and orchestra are locals. We shall see how well they work together. I am so excited. It so happens that Boston doesn't have a proper opera house yet. Instead of spending tens of thousands of dollars on a proper edifice to rival those of the old world, the powers that be turned a barn into something that might pass. The carriage deposits Tauron and me at the steps of the building's entrance, not far from Faneuil Hall and its market. Some efforts were made to add Doric columns on each side of the monumental gates, and admission is done by doormen wearing impeccable suits and grave expressions. It is not enough. The building looks like what it is, a glorified animal pen. Tauron leads me through a small hall and throngs of spectators, up a flight of narrow stairs to the second floor, where our private booth is situated. Despite our restrained auras, we catch more attention than I deem wise from staff and guests alike. My pride will not let me try to fade into the background, however. I note with interest that the other visitors are not from the richest population of the city. Instead, we are surrounded by what appears to be merchants and their adult children. Perhaps the most affluent citizens do not deem opera as proper fun. By silent agreement, Tauron and I neither mingle nor tarry. We walk along a semicircular walkway, then pass through a small door and find ourselves on a dais overlooking the ground floor seats, the pit where the orchestra is busy setting up, and the scene, now shyly hidden by a massive curtain. There are 4 small seats crammed here, and my host and I sit on the central ones. I will admit that whoever switched the building's function from cattle to the fine arts made a real effort. It is just a shame that my eyes are too good to be fooled. The golden decorations are cheap paint slathered on by untalented craftsmen. The wooden carvings are the work of apprentices, littered with flaws, scratches, and holes. Even the smell of varnish doesn't mask that of sweat and humanity. My excitement turns into a cold ball that sits in my stomach and burns it with resentment. So many unpleasant details accumulate and fray my fragile nerves, betraying my expectations. Then the lights dim, and suddenly all those flaws no longer matter that much. The orchestra is tuning. In waves and groups, they prepare their instruments with chaotic accords that fill the air and make my body vibrate, until from many notes it becomes a ringing whole. Strings start, then they are joined by the wood and brass instruments in a glorious explosion of discord that stops as quickly as it started. The remaining whispers from spectators die off as all remaining lanterns are blinded to plunge the room into darkness. I lean forward to see more. The conductor lifts his hands, causing the players to raise bows and flutes with military precision. Then the true music begins. I have heard groups, including a quintet on the street back in New Orleans. The songs they played had made me want to dance and sing. They had filled my heart and lungs with vivacious energy. The emotions I felt then formed some of my most pleasant memories. Even those moments do not compare to my experience right now. The orchestra transcends individual instruments in a harmony so breathtaking and unique that my jaw hangs open. This is unfair. This is madness. Wood, metal and catgut have no right to sound so hauntingly beautiful, to overwhelm me with such ease. I am no longer hearing with my ears. That simple explanation does not do the experience justice. I am hearing with my essence. The overture fills the air with a joyous melody, soon joined by the wood instruments. They play together to create beauty as ephemeral as it is poignant, and they carry me, helpless, to the beginning of their tale. The curtain lifts on a scene of village life. The mortals walk around under an illusory sun that doesn't burn me in simulated chaos. They're so perfect. Their clothes are free of mud and their face of the ravages of exposure, and their idleness is as fake as my innocence. They move with disguised purpose to trap us into their story. Their voices rise to the painted heaven with power and grace unlike anything I have ever experienced at church. They tell me, in Italian, of their simple life. They tell me that the sun is too hot, an opinion I can only agree with. The arias follow each other as the story progresses. Marino the peasant, played by a handsome lad with sandy hair, is in love with Audina, a rich landowner. And here she comes. The woman is not a classical beauty, but she is striking. Her dark and hooded eyes inflame those around and her steps are confident and proud. She shares the story she is reading of Tristan and Isolde, how the brave warrior stole the favor of the beautiful Irish princess from his uncle thanks to a love potion. I wonder if those really exist. And behold, the young peasant gets ideas. Oh, you cad, you want some alchemical assistance in your courtship, don't you? I have maimed some for less. And look, a newcomer. A dashing officer with his platoon arrives. He aggressively courts the cold-hearted beauty, caressing his square jaw and showing his muscular figure. A little while later, Marino declares his love, but Audina sends him packing. She wants a lover a day. Ha, you do you, my girl. And now, a solution appears in the person of a quack doctor with a large gut, who sells the naive boy cheap booze disguised as an elixir of love. Shenanigans ensue, ending with Audina promising to marry the officer, Belcour. The curtain falls. The first act is over. It was. I turn to Tauran and try to express what I feel, but words fail me. I end up helplessly flapping my arms. It was. More flapping. You seem pleased. Yes. It was so. All their voices together. And the acting. And the instruments. And everything. It was so great. I don't know what to say. Tauran's face was a mask, yet when he hears my words, he relaxes completely and a soft smile shines on his lips. I can tell that it was important for him that I enjoy myself. He now looks as pleased as a cat who found the pot of cream. I am ecstatic to hear that, Ariane. I enjoy and play music myself. Really? What do you play? This and that, though my favorite instrument is the organ. The organ? I ask with surprise, but, aren't most of them in churches? Exactly. He exclaims with sudden passion, this is ridiculous. The best organs are in the hearts of cathedrals and basilica, and what do they use it for? to animate the mass with stale hymns and flat kyries. The waste. Ah, the things I could do with those wonders of art and engineering. Did you know that? I stare with amusement, and a bit bewildered, as Tauran lists all the best organs, their impressive sizes and the time it took to build them. He is clearly an enthusiast. Being locked out of the best instruments remains a sore spot, not to mention that stealing one is completely unfeasible. After that, we quickly discuss the performances of the various singers. Tauran observes that Moreno is nothing special, but Adina is a prodigy, playing her role perfectly at the age of 21. I was going to ask about the part of the quack doctor, Dulcamara, when the door to our lodge bangs open and a man sneaks inside, slamming it close behind him. I gently massage the bridge of my nose. The intruder is, of course, Bingle. By my side, Tauran stands up. I always thought him to be pleasant, with an edge. Now I realize that he has the edge. He radiates offended nobility and threat, and the most interesting fact is that he does it without his aura. His power only slightly circles but never escapes his steel grip to spread across the place, and yet, I gaze at him and shiver. Before he punishes the newcomer, I place a light hand on his sleeve and mutter Bingle, causing him to sit back with a knowing smirk. The walking calamity who invaded our privacy still wears his dark suit, with top hat and silver cane, giving a new dimension to the term conspicuous. In short order, the annoying mortal turns to us and realizes that the lodge he chose as a hiding spot is occupied, and recognizes me in one swift motion. By Jove! My fair rescuer, in this place? He whispers. I did not realize it last time because of the surprise, perhaps, but Bingle sounds just as positively English as his relative. What are you doing here? I hiss in a low voice. I am here to save a life and solve a crime, Milady. The soprano, the woman who plays Adina, is in possession of a most precious gem. The rakes I am trying to avoid are after it, and her. By the watcher. Why? Just why? If I do not reach her first, she will never return home tonight. They will make sure of it. Milady, I know I have no right to ask, but I fear that alone, I will fail. Please, will you not help me? It would be a most noble and valorous act, worthy of your valor. You are absolutely correct, Bingle, you have no right to ask. Ahem, Tauran interrupts softly, dearest one, would you please save her on my behalf? Singers of her quality are rare. Her disappearance would ruin the entire season, he finishes in a cade. The opera season, ruined? That simply will not do. Oh, very well. After the second act. Milady, time is of the essence, Bingle urges. I assume that they will not try to abduct her mid-performance, yes? I ask, annoyed, it can wait. But surely. Enough. I grab him by the shoulder. The young man winces at the pressure as I pull him close enough to bite his nose off. Listen here, young Bingle. I am having the time of my life enjoying my first opera ever, after a very, very difficult week. I will watch Moreno steal the cold Adina's heart or die trying, even if I have to dismember every last mortal in this room. So, you will sit down and watch the show, or I swear I will tear off your arm and shove it down your crumpet-eating, tea-drinking throat. Is that clear? Ariane? Tauran asks in a soft and slightly worried voice. At the word, Bingle's face enters a mesmerizing metamorphosis. From apprehension, he switches to incredulity, wonder, then excitement. Ariane Delaney. It's you. It's really you. Ah, God fucking damn it. Now I'm in it for sure. Father mentioned you so many times. I thought he was embellishing the stories, but no, the legend was true. Incredible. You really did not age, and this blazing spirit. But, were you not in Georgia? That was almost 30 years ago. I moved. Astounding. I cannot believe my eyes, Ariane Delaney in the flesh. Oh, thank God. With your help, we will surely get to the bottom of this. I assure you he had nothing to do with the situation. Now quiet, or it is to the bottom of the river you'll go. Bingle Jr. lifts his hand in surrender, and it doesn't take long for spectators to regain their seats, the light to darken and the show to resume. The magic is intact, and I let myself get carried away by the otherworldly music. Adina and Belcour's wedding is in full swing, a ruse by the cruel beauty to make Marino jealous. A lot of effort for such a small result, but oh well, she is a rich single lady who lives in a village. Perhaps she is supremely bored. In the meanwhile, the poor peasant has conveniently inherited a fortune, making him suddenly popular. More shenanigans ensue, following which Marino contemplates the single tear he saw in his beloved's eye and a heart-wrenching, sublime aria that makes me gasp with pleasure. Una furtiva lagrima. All leads to a happy ending between the lovers, with Belcour remarking without spite that there are plenty of fishes in the sea, and the quack doctor claiming undue recognition for what inebriation achieved. It is finished. The actors leave the stage, under thunderous applause. I lean back into my chair, close my eyes. That was perfect. I turn to see an indescribable emotion in Tauran's eyes. His smile is soft and just a little sad when he tells me, with his strange lilt, "Sometimes, I wish I could forget everything and experience music for the first time again." I nod. Yes, this was a life-changing experience, one I will never repeat. As a mortal, I could have died before attending a single opera, and how is that fair? How is that sane? Madness, I say. Utter madness. Melody. Yes, yes. We should depart now so that we can be backstage before the singers return. While the artists salute the crowds, we quickly make our way out into the small concourse circling the second floor. Tauran guides us to the right up to the end of it, then down a set of stairs hidden behind a heavy curtain. At the bottom of it, a heavy-set man turns, his eyes widening when he recognizes Bingle. Without pausing, Tauran slaps him into the wall. I realize with satisfaction that the unfortunate thug is still breathing. Leaving bodies lying around is oftentimes more trouble than it's worth, unless we are assaulting a remote location and everybody can mysteriously perish in a tragic house fire. The situation is only exacerbated by the presence of the godling. Judging by what I have seen so far, he would probably complain about the sanctity of life or measured response or some such annoying concepts. Personally, I only care because a corpse could have the opera closed for an inquiry. The horror. I take a look around. We are on the ground floor, in a part of the structure not meant for public access. No gaudy decorations adorn the walls here. We are in the naked guts of the structure where magic is made. Piles of props, seats and leaflets line our way. We make a sharp right through a door, into a passage with a gate leading outside. High windows give a glimpse of the stone walls of a nearby office. Directly in front of us, the artist entrance lies closed, guarded by a heavy-set man with crossed arms and a stubborn air. I have a lie ready. I will just pretend to be the actress' childhood friend. From Madrid. I will even utter the few Spanish words my friend Constanza taught me, if I can remember them. In front of me, Tauran does not slow down. "Stand aside, boy," he says calmly. The doorman takes a short look at the impeccably dressed herald of doom bearing down on him, evaluates his chances after refusing a rich and influential man, and finds them wanting. He obeys. Or we can just do that. Tauran did not use his aura at all. I am slightly annoyed now, and decide that I will not use power at all next time I try to convince a mortal. I'm sure I can do it just as well. The staff area is currently empty, and I assume it will be another few minutes before the artists stop drinking in the adulation of the spectators and pass through here on their way home. We find ourselves in a well-lit, large room with a way to what should be the pit. Discarded instrument cases litter the ground, as well as food, music sheets and even a lonely sock. 3 private rooms share the cramped end. We head there. It will save us a lot of trouble if we can avoid the attention of the entire orchestra by waiting for your friend in her private quarters, Tauran comments. Indeed, sir, very astute, Bingle comments. He must be unused to basic common sense. I am not even remotely surprised. We check the first room, which contains an impressive number of empty liquor bottles. The director's room, Bingle says, singers avoid strong alcohol since it can damage their voices. Tauran nods, and we inspect the next one. That room has a small mirror, a pile of faded bouquets in the corner, and enough makeup to repaint the Sistine Chapel. Flashy costumes and fake jewelry are strewn haphazardly across the cluttered ground. "This is the right place," Bingle claims with a smile. Tauran and I wait until he turns away from the mirror and take position by the far wall. I notice that envelopes are tied to the flowers and retrieve an opened one. "Madam, your lips." "Ah, this kind of correspondence." As we wait, Tauran and Bingle finally introduce themselves properly. Upon learning that my companion is from Hungary, Bingle says a few words in Magyar. I can tell his pronunciation is horrible, though the vampire does not seem to mind. This is a neat trick to break the ice, and I make a note of it. Eventually, the diva herself closes the door behind her, takes a deep, exhausted sigh and turns to find her sanctum desecrated by a troublesome trio. Before she can release a mighty scream, Bingle gives an impeccable bow, and addresses his scared rescue. "Señorita Diaz, please, do not be alarmed." Her yell dies in her throat, replaced by a panicked croak. I am surprised as her last name is listed as De La Vega on the leaflet. "Who are you? How do you know my real name, and how dare you break into my room, you maldito? Forgive our intrusion. My name is Bingle, and these are my friends Ariane and Tauran. I came here on behalf of Princess Padma, to warn you of a terrible danger." I barely have time to raise an eyebrow at the mention of royalty before Bingle starts the most outlandish tale I have ever heard. That Diaz woman was apparently given a jewel by Princess Padma of the Kingdom of Mysore, for safekeeping. Indeed, that jewel is part of a trio of precious stones that adorn the mythical scepter of the tiger, a royal ornament that the princess wishes to hide from her evil and manipulative uncle. Should he lay his hands on them, he would be able to reforge the artifact and claim the throne for himself. But alas, the secret was leaked, and the ruby and emerald of the tiger already fell within his hands. Princess Padma called upon the illustrious adventurer Bingle to protect the last sapphire and its guardian from a most cruel fate. What a pile of rubbish. I can scarcely believe it, Diaz whispers with a worried voice. Yes, neither can I. I never thought this day would come that we are found out. I must warn my cousin, then we must escape. Gah! After a last look of shared disbelief, Tauran and I follow the pair out. The other players are surprised to see strangers in their midst, but since Diaz vouches for us we continue unmolested. The diva knocks on the third door where we are answered by the man playing the quack doctor. Without his wig and fake belly, he appears significantly younger. "Sir, ¿qué está pasando?" he asks. "Oh Miguel, we are found out. Foes have come after us in a jewel. We must escape promptly." Alarm fills the poor lad. "How? They probably have us surrounded?" If I may, I interject. When their attention is on me, I expose my plan. We could leave with a large part of the orchestra and choir. These thugs will never dare to assault a large group. We will leave their encirclement, then disappear once we are far enough. A splendid idea, Miss Delaney. To be fair, I used the trick with Constanza back when I wanted to dodge ugly suitors after mass. They do not need to know that though. Without any prompt on my part, Tauran steps forward and he sort of inflates. Not physically, though, and not through his aura. I do not know how, but suddenly he has become the center of the room, the person around whom all groups orbit. He claps his hands once, and the sound reverberates like thunder through the entire room. Silence smothers all conversations. Your attention please. I am Prince Tauran from Hungary. I cannot express how pleased I am to find such brilliant artists here, so far away from Prague and Vienna. It would be my honor and pleasure to invite you all to the Blue Jay for refreshments as a gesture of my appreciation. Whispers of glee at the offer of free food and drink spreads like the plague through the eager musicians. They grab their effects and rush to the exit like a swarm of locusts spotting a wheat field. We are carried forward, and spill in the streets where a pair of men with hungry eyes see us go by without recourse. I almost stop in my tracks when I casually charm one of them, feeling the lightest resistance. Interesting. Tauran easily makes his way to the head of the horde and leads us forward with a sure step and enough speed to force our pursuers to scramble after us. We leave large streets and stone buildings behind for a more narrow street filled with people, then into a 3-storied hotel and restaurant. A butler with jowls and a receding hairline looks worriedly at the approaching crowd, then recognizes the man at its head. "Sir? I am sorry to intrude upon you, Sylvester. Do you happen to have a private room we may use?" "Of course, sir, right this way." "May I ask what the occasion is?" "Certainly," the vampire answers as he leans in. He makes up a story about a scorned lover and a daring escape for the poor diva, a tale of unrequited attraction that leaves the stoic waiter with the barest hint of a mischievous smile. Bingle, Diaz and Miguel speed to a back door for a quick escape, but not before I reassure the astounding adventurer that he can get in touch with me by leaving a message here. Then, the rest of us are led to a separate room where the musicians are promised drinks and appetizers. After a few minutes and some excuses, Tauran pays the bill in advance and we leave through the front door. I admit that I am curious as to why you would allow him to keep in touch with you. From what I can tell, you find his presence unpalatable, my companion casually remarks. Yes, but I think I figured out why we were drawn into his story. I just need to confirm my theory. And I'm quite thirsty. Well, we picked up a tale. 2 birds with 1 stone. We should turn here. We make our way into a narrow alley that only holds service entrances. Our pursuer rushes in only a few seconds later. I grab him and inspect his throat, ignoring the weak complaints. Mortals do not scream when they choke. Observe, I comment as I point at 2 barely visible fang marks. They are very recent, and the cause of my prey's small resistance to domination. Tauran's eyes widen slightly at their sight, for he knows what we face. A vampire. We were not brought in for amusement. We are here to balance the scales. Chapter 74. When vampires hold a party, there are no half measures. Take the Manor's receiving room, for example. The solemn space could host hundreds of people under its exquisitely molded ceiling and crystal chandeliers. I could place a throne at one end, a pair of guards, and pretend to be in Versailles' Galerie des Glaces while dukes and counts dance and plot. The long rectangular surface is lined on one side by French windows leading to the inner court and its fountain, and on the other, by countless mirrors that do not reflect me. It is grandiose, but still mostly empty. Wilhelm and I welcome the partygoers by the door and direct them to the exhibits. Starting to the left and alternating with the windows leading to the Manor's inner courts, I have placed my portraits. Loth, Dalton, Jimena, Nami, and even Jonathan alternate with more exotic takes on human nature, such as the herald before and after his transformation, one of the more courageous English soldiers right as he died in the insane face of one of the cultists. There are no lichens displayed, for obvious reasons. After that, the visitors can appreciate scenes such as a slave family's home, the roofs of Marquette captured on the coldest winter's coldest night, and a werewolf on the hunt. My favorites are those depicting the charging Wendigos and the submissive mermaid shaman as she offered me her blood. In all of those scenes, I paid attention to the illusion of movement by catching my subjects mid-motion, or by adding elements such as fabric held by the wind. The result is that of life as if caught in amber. It took me a long time and the study of many bodies, most of them still alive, to achieve this. Around 20 such paintings line the left wall to its end. The back wall is also covered in mirrors, a curious choice that makes the place eerie, as the reflection does not have as many people as the actual room. The strange discrepancy makes it feel even larger than it actually is. My largest work thrones there. I painted the Choctaw, Muskogee and American infantry charging English lines at the Battle of Black Harbor. The scene appears mostly normal until one looks more closely. First, they will notice that the largest celestial body looks strangely like an eye, then they will find Loth's colossal form clad in his battle armor, cleaving through ranks of men like an unstoppable god of war. Further examination will show that the twirls of shadows draw shapes of war chariots and ancient soldiers wielding glaives and severed heads, and the best part is that it takes some time to notice everything. I did not draw myself in that painting. I have not completely forgotten what I looked like, I just cannot picture it well enough to paint. It bothers me just a little bit. To the right, a small pavilion covers the exhibit's main piece. A small notice on a pulpit by the entrance warns mortals that the view inside is disturbing and can lead to one being hypnotized. I left this to prevent any guest from having an unpleasant experience, fully expecting the pavilion to mainly attract vampires. I should have known better. A few daring individuals watched the watcher, so to speak, and shared their experience with disbelieving friends. Soon, the attraction became a center of morbid curiosity, and my work was examined not only by the staff waiters but also the maids, the guests, the cooks, the handymen, the gardeners and no less than 17 soldiers and assorted bodyguards. I refused 3 separate offers to sell the paintings, for a good sum too. Mortals are strange. They are curious when they should be scared and scared when they should be calculating. Oh well. The last part of the ballroom is occupied by tables around a bar where those of us who still digest can get refreshments. A few of the individuals sitting there are hired to provide a more vivacious kind of snack for those with a bit more bite to their thirst. I greet a trio of vampires who present themselves as Rolands. The master then moves to the side, with her 2 courtiers trailing her like chicks after a mother hen. Wilhelm informs me that they are refugees from a coven that found itself at the losing end of a power struggle back in Spain. They are here to find another coven to join, or for the right to establish their own. The butler adds that such visitors are quite common, and even more so during times of strife. The exiles will be using this gathering to network and make enquiries. The next person to go through the door fills my heart with joy. Lord Ver, welcome. Please Ariane. Call me Tauran, always. If you wish. Come to enjoy my paintings. I wouldn't miss them for the world. I'll leave you to your duties, my dear. Do find me when you have the time. He kisses the hand I present and leaves behind the lingering touch of his fingers. His mysterious servant bows deeply then trails him. Her respect appears genuine. I do not believe I had seen Lord Tauran smile before, Wilhelm comments offhandedly. I definitely need to ask him if he's courting me. More guests come and go. Wilhelm introduces them and I do my best to memorize their names. It is easier with vampires. They have a stronger existence to me, as I can taste their essence through their disciplined auras. Their individuality is simply more marked in my mind. Soon after, a man I hadn't seen in 30 years makes his entrance. Lord Saron is just as striking as I remember. He has dark, curly hair, a well-trimmed beard and the muscles of a prize fighter. His eyes are cornflower blue and shining with intelligence, warning others that under the brawny appearance hides a keen intellect. I remember that in the fortress, he invested in me before I even became a proper fledgling. His decision brought dividends, as I have since struck devastating blows against his rivals the Lancasters. The handsome man smiles broadly before giving me a gracious bow. House Nirari, welcome. None of that Lord Saron, not between us. How have you been? Wonderful. Ah, but I remember a fragile youngling in a baggy gray training garb bumbling about. How you've grown. I knew it. I knew that attire wasn't appropriate. No, Saron replies with a laugh, it really was. Your current dress just suits you so much better. The Cadiz Lord is right. I am wearing the second of Good's creations. This one is an old-fashioned affair in shades of white and blue. It fits me like a glove and is just as mildly provocative as the other. Saron and I conduct small talk, and I gather that he would be interested in a formal alliance after I have acquired a territory. I subtly assure him that I would be delighted and he moves to the side to allow other people to greet me. Some of the visitors are mortals from loyal families, and I make an effort to make them comfortable. Wilhelm warned me that Devlers have a reputation, and more than a few are more apprehensive of me than of others. I once more find the notion ridiculous. It should not matter to the sheep if it is slain by a wolf or a lion, and no bloodline is immune to rogues in their ranks. The next important guest is also a Cadiz. Lord Suarez, it has been so long. And Inez is with you? Your servant now I see. Congratulations to you both. The current ruler of Charleston greets me with a smile. The bruised slip of a girl I had saved decades ago is now a mature beauty with perfect countenance. She greets me warmly, and the pair soon join Saron in an animated discussion. I welcome almost 50 people in the space of an hour. Most move on quickly. Others have questions, including the one I am addressing now, a Hastings master with gray hair and the look of a chief accountant. Do you know where your master is? He is no longer my master. But do you know where he is? I do not. Will you side with him when he returns? I have not moved here to suffer from the whims of a capricious madman and his ilk. My smile grows strained, and I pull him forward while adding in a low voice. My good sir, I understand your distress, but let me assure you that if you do not release my hand right now, my sire will be the least of your worries. The man drops my fingers as if they were on fire. He looks scandalized by my threatening tone and turns to Wilhelm, presumably seeking support. You are holding the line, sir, the steward remarks with a perfect mask. The master realizes the battle is lost and pulls back with the last huff. Showing his back. Weakling. Pray. £. And nothing. This is a party. Thank you, Wilhelm. Think nothing of it, miss. He should be the one grateful to me for saving him from the consequences of his behavior. I would not kill him simply for being rude. Not just from you, but also from the lords already present as a show of support. As for killing, let me just say that your control is excellent, young one, but I am an old hand at reading auras. This bloodlust. Intoxicating. Ha, I knew it. Under the veneer of rules and etiquettes, the beast lies. Perhaps I should invite Wilhelm for a hunt. Oh, but no, it wouldn't be proper. I need to invite Auron first. I must ask him into the rules of vampire dating. If I invite a vampire for a private hunt, is it a date? I have not reached that part of her book yet. I think it depends on the balance of power. When I brought Isaac on his first hunt, it was definitely not a date. The next guests come quickly. Salim, Jimena and Nami arrive together with Ainsa and a few of their mortals, soon followed by a sheepish Lord Jarek, supporting a tired woman under each of his massive arms. Lady Sepharva Hastings joins late, apologizes for it and proceeds to fuss over my dress, which she compliments copiously. We are about to move on when an unexpected figure comes through the door. The man is from a bloodline I have never encountered, a rarity now. He wears a fancy purple silk vest over a white shirt and tie that shows his broad physique. He has that impression I had from my father, of a bit of fat over a lot of muscle. His face is large and squarish with fat lips, a blonde mustache and glacial blue eyes. He sees me and gives me a smile that does not reach his eyes. I wait for a presentation to come but realize something is wrong. Wilhelm froze in place, and his face has gone from mild to stiff, his equivalent of screaming in anger. Pretending not to have noticed, the newcomer takes one step forward. Behind me, a familiar aura of cold night on a mountain flares. It seeps into the ground, and though the land does not answer, there is a pulse far away to the east, as if something vast had answered the call. The aura is joined by the focused burst from two Cadiz lords, and a smattering of others. I feel eyes drilling into my back. The conversation in the room dies out in a matter of seconds when everyone realizes the apex predators among them have gone from quiescent to deadly. The man wisely stops, places a hand against his heart and gives a short bow. I do not return the greeting. Instead, I turn to Wilhelm and ask in a calm voice that every vampire hears. Is he on the guest list? I'm afraid not. Pardon the intrusion, the gentleman declares with a rolling accent. I merely wanted to pay homage to the newly ascended House Nirari. My name is Sergei of the Kalinin, the new leader for the night squad. Relative silence falls over the room, with the mortals' slightly panicked breaths and heartbeats the only source of sounds. I am not sure what Sergei's game is. Perhaps he came to take my measure, or perhaps he was not aware of the support I had garnered. It matters little, for I know two things. First, his name is not Andre, so I will have to rename the team, darn it. Second, he crashed my party and made no secret of it, disrespecting me and my guests in the process. There is a time for subtlety. This is not it. A pleasure. I hope you fare better than your predecessor, and now if you'll excuse us, this is a private event. Sergei looks around, probably realizing that cooks and maids are lined in front of the watcher tent, with my blessing I might add. He takes a breath, possibly willing to continue our verbal joust, but a deceptively calm voice interrupts him, backed by an Arctic aura. I cannot resist. I turn around to see Tauran right behind me, fixing the intruder with a steely glare that carries the promise of violence as certainly as a naked blade to the throat. Do not make the lady repeat herself. That is all, just one sentence with a meaning as clear as crystal. Leave, or die. Either the Dvarlord is better at bluffing than Sinead himself, or he will, in fact, skewer the man's heart and rip out his spine. With one last defiant look, Sergei gives me a minute bow and retreats. The vampires in the room return to their conversations as if nothing had happened, and the mortals let out a collective breath. I wonder if he was here to gauge me, the one who caused his predecessor to fall from grace? I see no other explanation. I turn to Wilhelm and a silent message of respect passes between us, then Tauran comes to our side. That would be most of them, Wilhelm, would it not? Indeed. What now? I ask with trepidation. The sight of a potential new enemy rattles me more than I would like to admit. I don't want to go through this again. I can't think about going through this again. I am not ready. Normally you would mingle, however, if it pleases you, I would enjoy a presentation of those masterpieces by the artist herself, Tauran suggests respectfully. Sensing my hesitation, Wilhelm adds in a whisper, it is appropriate to show favor that way. You can always network afterward. I accept and take Tauran's offered arm. He lightly holds my hand and does his massage that helps me relax while we go to the portraits. Guests respectfully part to let us through everywhere we go. Tauran's touch is soft and his scent teases my nostrils. I walk my companion through the exhibit. I have a little story for each painting. I talk about the inspiration, I talk about the technique, and I talk about my mood and what I enjoyed the most in the creation process. Tauran chuckles at the tale of my father meeting me and asking to see my fangs when his portrait comes. I really enjoy the way you draw. Most painters will go for the exact rendition of a person's appearance, while you go for who they are. You captured your father's pride, him and his determination, and him and his playfulness just as clearly as their eyes and noses. I see people, not just their faces. Thank you. Tauran takes a deep breath, hesitant. This is so unlike the usually self-assured lord that my curiosity. Would you consider painting me? You want a portrait? Yes. Vampire painters are a rarity. Many of us lost the creative edge that defined us as mortals. Those who remain often enjoy music due to the ease with which we move. Immortality is an obstacle, not an advantage, when it comes to visual arts. I never thought about it that way, I remark as we reach the first landscape. I notice in passing that Jarek has stepped outside and Saron is at my back. I do not feel boxed in. The auras present are cold but peaceful, though given so many flavors it feels more like a truce than an alliance. I will be safe tonight. We spend comparatively less time on the landscapes, simply because Tauran does not have so many questions. When we reach the massive battle scene, we make a game of him spotting every little element I snuck in there. He manages to find them all with only a handful of hints. Eventually, we make it to the tent where mortals are still taking bets. They make way for us and genuflect as we go by. The interior of the small tent is lit by a single light blue lantern. Two images of the Watcher stare into our soul, the effect significantly dulled compared to the real one outside, but present nonetheless. The left one depicts the vampire god in a background of stars, and the right one is a baleful moon overlooking a lake. The left eye's pupil narrows. I blink and shake my head. Surely a hallucination. Or not. Who knows with that eccentric celestial entity? Meanwhile, Tauran focuses on each frame, one after the other. Impressive. This is a magical item. It is? It does not have an aura in a traditional sense, not one most would pick up anyway, and yet the pull is undeniable. It could even be used as a defensive tool against intruders, and be incredibly effective too. Infiltration requires paying attention to details to spot traps. A spy's sense of observation would be used against them. His fingers brush against my knuckle and he loses his intense glare. Forgive me, Ariane. My desire for safety got the best of me. 2 months away from my territory and I already behave like a cautious old man. This is an incredible piece of art and I treat it like a vulgar trap. I do not mind. I will give you one of them, if you want. Tauran smiles brightly, and the shadow in his eyes lightens. I now own 2 of your paintings, that gives me a monopoly. Tut tut, my dear, I already sent a set to King Loth himself. You are not even the majority shareholder. Blast, I shall cross the ocean and duel him for it. I would not, I lean in and add with a devious tone, those are paintings of his previous wife. Even better. Tauran, you rake. We chuckle and exit the tent, then join the impromptu gathering at the center of the room. There, my guests welcome us. Both Saron and Suarez congratulate me on a well-deserved victory and request a portrait. Neminata then asks for a nude of herself to send to a suitor, and Himenashili orders a scene with both Aintzla and herself. Just like that, my career as official vampire portraitist is all but certain, and I could very well retire in a distant cottage to spend my days in work and isolation if I so desired. I have a pleasant time creating bonds of friendship with old acquaintances and newcomers alike, until, an hour later, I feel the need for fresh air. I draw Tauran away from his conversations and drag him out through the French windows and out near the fountain. We follow the path out, then right into an open space by the road leading down. There, the gardener who created the intricate flower garden now at our back left the land more barren and open, so that walking there is like taking a stroll through the wilderness. I remain silent until we stop at a low wall marking the edge of the cliff. The bay and the river in the distance move with unstoppable slowness, and for a moment there is no manner, no politics, just the flow of murky water under the endless sky, and nestled in its midst, the alien being that allowed our existence, ever watching. Just as before, its presence is calming, and its subtle approval puts my mind at ease. The Watcher is not a judgmental god. It is neither jealous or demanding, merely curious, and observing us for some unknown purpose. Sometimes I wonder if Semiramis was right, and if it is the embryo of a universe, destined to consume itself in a great explosion. What it does with our experience, our sufferings and achievements, and more importantly, our inherent predatory nature, I know not. There is something I have come to believe, however. Perhaps when we die our essence is not lost to disperse in the air like our bodies. Perhaps we come back to it and bring with us what we learned. I think I would like that. I would not go where Nashoba and Dalton are, but at least what I am would not be lost, when my time comes. Sensing my contemplative mood, Tauran remains silent. I appreciate it, and the efforts he made to accommodate my skittish nature. I think I am ready now to learn for sure. Tauran, I have a question. Do ask. You are courting me, are you not? He chuckles, his amusement clear. Thank thee, my efforts have been noticed. Yes, Ariane, I am courting you. Why? Because you are doing a fantastic job of it. I am just not quite sure what you find in me. I am not particularly graceful, nor the smartest or most competent woman around. By siding with me so clearly, you are making an enemy of the Lancasters, the Knights, and who knows how many others who take exception to the existence of devourers. I want to know why. Tauran lets go of my arm to face me properly. He still has this slight smile that turns his steely, almost cruel demeanor into a distinguished one instead. Very well, I will declare. There is something with you, Ariane, that I cannot resist. It is not your appearance, though you are beautiful. Not your intelligence, though you are brilliant, nor your achievements though they are many. It is the way you stood straight when facing your accusers at the trial. The way you walked out with your head held high. The way you blinked and relaxed when I tugged on your fingers, and the smile you gave me when I showed you the garden. I felt you when you smiled at those flowers, when you listened to those arias at the opera. You were vibrant and alive with a passion that echoed in my soul. Every small gesture, every clever word made something blossom in a heart I thought cold and barren for all of eternity. Faster than I thought possible, I coveted you like a thirsty man covets fresh water, but I was afraid. Me, The old monster, I was terrified that you would leave. So, I approached you with care and all the patience I could muster because I wanted to drink in your presence and all the little things that make Ariane. I cannot express the felicity I felt when you loved the Elixir d'Amore or when you took my offered arm without worry. I had no right to feel something so powerful. And yet I did. When that Cullinan knight came to intimidate the guests, I was just about ready to tear him apart with my bare hands. The realization of how far I would go for you did not scare me, because deep inside I already knew I was caught. So yes, I want to look at you when you're being you. I want to wake up by your side and I want us to run together, hunt together and fight together, and if you will have me I will, no matter who is arrayed against us. I want you to be mine as I will be yours. Wow. I can't think of any clever reply. That was so raw. Then there is no more room for thought. Tauran's lips are soft and cold, but I do not mind that. His arms circle me in an embrace that I do not fear, just as my own reach to his shoulders. He smells and tastes delicious and crisp. And strong. I melt into it and come to rest against his body as we explore each other. I relax completely and forget myself in this new experience, at peace. Tauran's kiss is daring and possessive. I let him take control and guide me through things until after a while, we pull away from each other. I just smile like an idiot. So does he? You are a very, very dangerous man, Tauran of the Dvor. Of course, that is why you like me. Cheeky rogue. I must warn you though, I just gave you something quite precious. Do not betray my trust. I will not. I rest my hand against his chest as he caresses my hair, then a sudden thought makes me pull back and narrow my eyes with suspicion. What? He asks, suddenly worried. When we discussed me escorting you, you clearly said you were not after this kind of companionship. First, you were referring to casual sex and that is not what I was after. Second, you forget the ancestral truth, my star. And what would that be? All is fair in love and war. Gah! I am betrayed. I demand compensation. Kiss me again. Tauran is only too happy to comply and after a little while, we are distracted by ponderous steps coming to our direction. Lord Jarek comes into view, only to stop at an appropriate distance. I appreciate the warning, as he only made noises to warn us of his arrival well in advance. Lord Jarek? I ask with a bit of concern. There is a message for the both of you at the reception desk. Also, one more thing, he starts with a singularly low-pitched voice. Yes? I asked the suddenly solemn strong man. Where I come from, no coming-of-age party is complete without a show of strength and a good fight. Here, have a show of strength, he says. Then he walks up to the closest tree, an oak of respectable size, and grabs it with his two hands. He grunts with effort as the trunk is literally torn apart under his prodigious grip, then, with a last agonizing creak, the poor thing topples. Jarek is not done. He hoists the body like one would a javelin, aims, and tosses it into the bay. I watch, mesmerized, as hundreds of pounds of lumber arc beautifully into the night like the bolt of an ancient siege weapon. It takes more than 5 seconds for the vampire-propelled tree to finally topple beneath the waves. I close my mouth with a click. Now we wait for a good fight. Ah! Wilhelm is an Ehrenwald of great power. This natural garden, the flower patches in many of the greenhouses on the plain below are under his purview. Ah! Just as I answer, a furious roar emerges from somewhere to my right. Who dares? Jarek rolls his shoulders and two massive gauntlets with vambraces made of the void-like substance of soul weapons appear on his oversized hands. An instant later, his gun and the first metallic clang of clashing weapons rings through the clearing. The fight has begun. I lean against Tauran as I try, and fail, to follow the fight. I already know this is not a struggle to the death and they take great pain to avoid being too destructive. I see it more as a match than anything too serious and manage not to become nervous. Wilhelm does seem hell-bent on teaching the Natalist Lord a lesson, however, and his face is a mask of focus and contained fury. He wields a twin set of dark axes with which he attacks relentlessly in breathless rushes and large, flowing whirlwinds. By comparison, Jarek is more defensive and fights like a boxer. He blocks, attacks and moves in surprising bursts of speed that I would never have expected from somebody so large. For a while, they test each other's defense, but neither one is willing to fully commit, resulting in a stalemate. Should Wilhelm land a blow, his vicious-looking axes would do tremendous damage, while anyone hit by Jarek's fist would be mercilessly punted into the bay. They are obviously trying to avoid that fate. After a few minutes, both combatants salute and the natalist lord leaves for the manor while our poor steward stares, despondent, at the pit where his precious tree used to be. I decide to leave him for now and bid Tara and follow me inside for that message. I have grown just a bit more sensitive over the past weeks thanks to Aisha's game, and something tells me I should not be late. At the front desk, I am given a nice envelope by a matronly dark-haired servant. The contents do not surprise me in the slightest. Ms. Delaney, I hope you received this letter in time, for I was compelled to leave it at your friend's hotel. Indeed, the fight over the scepter has come to a close and light has been shed on this darkest of conspiracies. Any more eye-rolling on my part and I shall soon see the back of my skull. If I may. Tauran says as he picks up the guilty sheet. Ahem. Declaiming like Cicero, Tauran reads the letter with gusto while I snort and applaud appropriately. The frankly preposterous recollection of events Bingle saw fit to lay on paper becomes hilarious when recounted in the haughty and slightly sarcastic voice of the Dwarlord. I learned that he brought the two singers to his own secret abode to protect them from the goons sent to ransack their home. He managed to get a jump on them and learned from a captive that they had been hired by the Somerville Consortium of Merchants. After infiltrating their compound and the subsequent daring escape, he found out the location of a secret base and now requests our help in assaulting the location and hopefully recovering the stolen jewels. The tale ends on a moving plea to assist him in this endeavor. Tauran folds the message back while I lightly clap before this masterful performance. Where I am from, if a trained man asked a lady for assistance in battle, he would be shunned throughout the land, my lover remarks with a hint of disapproval. I want to remind him that he officially did just that but consider that it was all a ruse. Instead and despite my annoyance, I come to the adventurer's rescue. Since his foes work with vampires, I would be surprised if the compound were not protected by them or at least by some magical means. As before, he calls upon us to equalize the field without realizing it. Will you go? Yes. I dare not think what will happen if I do not answer the call. Besides, it will be fun. Then do you mind if I accompany you? Not at all, I am sure there will be labor for the both of us. Now, when did he say he would assault the compound? Tuesday, an hour after midnight. We both pause. By the Watcher, it is midnight. We need to leave now. The carriage comes to an abrupt stop less than 5 minutes after leaving the compound. I finish fastening my heart protector, regretting that I cannot bring out my armor this time. Bingle still doesn't know about vampires, and I would prefer if he did not find out. I open the slit leading to the driver's seat. What now? I ask with impatience. Milady, we are being robbed, Urchin answers from the other side. Come on out with your hands in the air and nobody gets hurt. A nervous voice screams in the night. Tauran stands up. His aura blankets the space so that even outside, horses neigh with worry. I will be right back, my star. Hold on. I would like to find out if they were sent here and if yes, by whom. Oh, very well then. He opens the door and takes one step outside. Around us, I count 3 mounted raiders to his side and one on mine slightly forward. Their rides take a step back. You're that man that's been flashing the money around town. I knew it. Give us your coin and nobody gets hurt. Amateurs. Huh? Amateurs. You're too close. Tauran's hand blurs. I hear a sound like air displaced by something massive and the very specific sound of sliced meat. The 3 mounts on the left twitch, their heads gone. Cries of disbelief turn into screams of pain when the carcasses fall on the ground and on fragile legs. The man on the right swears in alarm, then realizes his gun is gone. Mine now, Urchin says. My new minion shoots. He misses. I do not. The horse falls dead, trapping his rider like the others. When this is over, remind me to bring you to a firing range. I will not tolerate poor shots among my ranks. That pistol was faulty. The only faulty thing here is your aim. Now quiet, we need to ask a few questions. I approach the nearest rider and notice that Tauran has gathered their guns. I kneel by his side. The man is dirty and stinks quite a bit. A mask of filthy fabric wraps around his face and I spot the greasy ends of a beard peeking from underneath. His eyes are muddied by pain and confusion. Now whose brilliant idea was it to attack us? The man instinctively turns to his leader, a tall thug with a black beard and a large scar across his ugly face. We no longer need the others, I note. An instant later, 3 men are silenced. Oh shit, who the fuck are you monsters? You attacked us and you didn't know. What? No, please. We just wanted your money. We would not have killed you. I care not. Tell me who suggested this raid? Please, I don't want to die. Look at me. Good. Now, you want to live, don't you? Yes. I have a bargain for you. If you tell me everything I want to know, I will let you go with a 1 minute lead, and when I come after you, I will not run. Right. I was scouting that eatery where all the rich folks go for grub, then I saw your John coming and figured he must be loaded. Shook down a waiter for a story and followed the runner here, figuring he would come out alone. We only meant to take the swag and scram, I swear. That was your idea. Yeah. I grab the loud's face and turn it around. No trace of bite marks, nor does he smell of one of our own. Incredible, Tauran. A genuine highway robbery. Is it that or? Yes, especially so close to a city. Ah, but I digress. Tauran dear, I propose that we let Urchin handle the cleanup and continue by ourselves. Of course, my star, tonight is your night. Thank you. I appreciate your patience in dealing with these ruffians. I know that you indulge me, and have done so for the past few days. Do not worry, you more than make up for it, he answers with a smile. The rogue. I turn to the terrified highwayman and lift the horse off his body. As promised. 1 minute lead. He stares at me, frozen in disbelief. So I smile and make sure to show him all my fangs. 55 seconds. Ah, now that is much better. I turn to my helpful aide. Little urchin, can you please head back to the manor and have someone clean this mess? Yes, ma'am. Say, I did not kill that one there on the ground. Can't I drink him? Of course. Make sure everything is done before somebody notices. Now, Tauran dear. How about a little hunt before we go raiding? I know exactly what you had in mind when you made that promise. Did you, now? Heavy hooves trample the earth. A large warhorse gallops through the darkness, its obsidian coat nearly invisible to mortal eyes. It is not Metis. Crawware, Tauran whispers with pleasure. He climbs atop the nightmare as it stops by his side. Metis, I echo an instant later when my proud ride joins us. I climb on her back. The 2 mounts greet each other while my friend checks a richly decorated pocket watch. After a while, he closes it and looks at me. The night is beautiful. The trees mask the city in the distance. The smells of blood and pine needles overwhelm all others and the forest is alive with predators and prey caught in their deadly dance. Somewhere in front of us, our quarry struggles forward, needled by dread. We will ride it down together and partake of his blood. Tauran leans forward and kisses me lightly. His eyes shine with a mischievous glint as he pulls back and he whispers, with his exotic lilt. First to the prey. He is gone in a great thunder of flowing dirt and crushed shrubbery. Eh? Go, Metis go. Tor on. Wait for me. Told continued. Thanks for listening.